Hello. All right, let's get this ball rolling. All right, so 4.1 says display an integer reversed. And you want it in reverse order. You want me to have a void reverse function, for example, 3456, 6543. So we'll go to 4.1. All right, boom, here we go. So we create the void reverse. It asks for the argument number. And then creates this variable called rev, which it will be what reverses. Then we do a while loop. This will take the number. It will mod it by 10 by taking, let's say it was 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it'll take off the 4. It'll make it down here. It'll times it by 10, making it 4,000. And then dividing it by 10. Therefore, essentially taking the numbers and then reversing them. And it does this all the way until it goes 4, 3, 2, 1. And then it's obviously printing in line. Then down here, we ask you to enter a number, and then we call that with reverse. So to see this work, we can try, as I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's try it with the problem here, 6, 5, 4, 3. We go here, 6, 5, 4, 3. And then there you go. That answers that. Next, we move on to 4.2. Twin primes are a pair of prime numbers that differ by 2. For example, 3, 5, 5, 7. Example. Write a program that finds all the twin primes less than 1,000. So we can delete 4.1. We go to 4.2. So on my research of twin primes, the formula is 6 times n, I believe. So the Wikipedia page is right here. It's 6n minus 1 and then 6n plus 1. And so if you go to here, it's 6 times the count, which is 1, minus 1. But what that excludes is 3, 5. So what we did is I hard-coded 3, 5 in there because it has to be there. And then I created int num1, int num2, and I set that to 0. And then I said while true, num1 equals that, num2 equals that. And then as long as num2 isn't greater than 1,000, break it. And then we added the count plus 1, and then it continues to loop through as adding that. So as you can see here, boom, it goes to 997, less than 1,000. And then as you can see all the way up here, it prints out the 3557. So boom, so we'll cancel that out. And then we'll go back here. Next is compute the weekly hours for each employee. Suppose the weekly hours for the employees are stored in a 2-dimensional array. Each row records the 7-day work week. So in my code here, I created a swap function, which just says, hey, here is in reference to XP and a reference to YP. And then we store the XP inside a temporary variable, and then we flip XP to equal YP, which just means that XP is now YP, and then YP will equal XP, therefore swapping it. We have our bubble sort here. Our bubble sort takes in our total hours, our employee, and how many those employees are, which is n. And so we have our first for loop, and then we have our second for loop, and then within our second for loop, we have this if statement. And essentially it's saying if the total hour is j, which is this, and the total hour is j plus 1, is less than, then we swap. And we'll swap employee with employee j plus 1, and then we'll swap total hours with j plus 1. Therefore, making it in decreasing order. Then down here, you'll see I created a 2-dimensional array. These are all hard-coded in, obviously. It's not using rand or anything. And then we've created employee at 5 and in total at 7 because of the 7 days. So as you can see here, we have our for loop, and then we have our second for loop, which gives us the total hours plus equals xi, which, as you can see, x is right here. So we then do the bubble sort with the total hours, which is I, and the employee, which is I, and then 5. And then we print it out right here. So if we print it out, you'll see it's in descending order because employee 4, employee 3, employee 5, employee 2, employee 1, 34, 33, 33, 30, 35. That's 4.3. And then finally, 4.4. We need to create a tic-tac-toe game. So here we can show you the result first, and then I'll break it down. So prints the game board. So we go 0, 0. Puts X in there, and then we go 1, 2. Puts a 0 over there. We can go 2, 1, and then we can do 1, 1, and we can go 0, 2, and then so that 0 wins, we'll do 1, 0. Yay, 0 wins. If you go to, I'll show you actually this here. So first we create the game board. This is just as a for loop here. It does it 3 times, and it says create the rows, and then it'll do it 3 times. So row I, row J, and as you can see down here, we set them to blank spaces. So this right here will be printing out blank spaces in between these bars, and then obviously having an underneath line. So that prints our game board. And then we'll have a checkboard. So this checkboard has it's a bool, and then has another bool in here which says 1, and it equals to false. So this is checking if the board has like accomplished what it needs to do. So if someone has 1, so right here we have horizontal, and right here we have vertical, and we set them both to true. If they've completely gone through and they aren't set to false, and they are true, then they've won. So this takes into account horizontal or vertical. As you can see here, it goes to both for loops, and then if it's not equal to n, then it's set to false. Next, we need to take care of the diagonals. So we have diagonal 1 and diagonal 2. And for this, we just go up to 3, and then we have 2 if statements, one for the left to right and one to the right to left. That's why we have the minus 2i here. And so if the right or the left diagonal, 1 is true, and then we return 1. So now going into our main, we create the rows, which is what the argument for checkboard and the argument for game board is. We set them all to 0, and then we say we create our game board. So our game board is created, boom, it's full of zeros. Then we have the bool game over, false, and then we have a count, which I'll explain the count here in a second. And then this is our loop, our while loop. So game over equals true, does not equal true, then do this. So what it's going to do is it's going to ask for your row in the column, and then it's going to ask here with a for loop. It's going to say, okay, cool, you've done this. So if the row is equal to I and the row is equal to J, and the count is modded at 0, which right here we're just trying to say X goes first. So we want X to go first. So count is 0, and it mods by 2. So boom, rows I and J, which is 0 and 0 at this point, will be X. Now that being said, if I and J is something else, it'll print obviously something else. Then it loops through again, and it says, okay, now it's 0, so because count is at 1, and so it's going to say, hey, 0, you're going up now. And then it reprints the game board. Then it goes through a check. It says, hey, is checkboard true? And so if checkboard is true and X is there, then X wins. If O is there, O wins, because up here we said N is our character, and then we've put N does not equal, right? So if in the checkboard it says 0 wins or X wins, and then finally, if let's say you just play it all the way out and no one wins, you have 9 turns to do so. Therefore, if count is equal to 9, game over equals true. In game over, no one wins. So this is the logic, as you can see, and then there's our count. That's what I was talking about earlier. The count here is just counting up each time. So that's 4.4 of the tic-tac-toe game. So I'll put all the code in there. Thank you.